It should be recording.
All right, hello, hi, this is our presentation, and I want to first of all introduce myself. My name is Michael Cates, and I teach in the Topeka School District at Highland Park, and I teach U.S. history, African American history, and I teach Abbott 11. Kristen?
Oh, I am Kristen Gibson. I live in Southwest Kansas. I teach at Fowler Middle School, High School, grades 6 through 12. Social studies, so ancient history, U.S. government, world history this year. And I'm going to be talking about the PSYOP plan, but in a different way, using it in a different way.
Yep. And okay, so I can be a school counselor here in the Hayes School District, and I work at Lincoln Elementary School.
Cool, and I'm Tyler Sattler. I work at Ross County High School in Atwood, Kansas, and I teach Spanish. And I'll be talking about the individualized plans. So, Michael.
All right, so I'll go ahead and kick us off. The topic that I will be looking at is AVID, and AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And I already teach this course, as I stated before. And this course was created by Mary Catherine Swanson, and she was a school teacher, and she wanted to do something to meet the needs of her students. And one of the videos I was watching, it was actually one of the conferences that she did in 2012. She referenced, and people asked her why she came up with this concept. And she said, you know, that is what teachers are supposed to do. They're supposed to come up with ways to make sure that their students were learning. And she went on to talk about how she felt like there was a lot of resistance from the other teachers, but she nevertheless wanted to make sure that their students were learning. So she came up with this concept. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over some of the different concepts, but the core purpose of AVID is to make sure students are college ready, making sure that they have these essential skills. So one of the skills they look at is team building. There are a number of things that we do throughout the year to make sure the kids have the skills to work in groups. And again, they expect these presentations. We do a number of things to make sure that they're able to stand in front of a group and present. Reading skills is something that's also very important. And that's one of the things that cuts all the way across curriculum. It could be math, it could be science, it could be history, and reading is so essential. So we do a lot of work in making sure the kids are able to read well and able to take notes and different things like that. Some of the things that we really look at, and these are some of the practical application things that we work on each and every day in our class. We used to call them Cornell notes, and some of the teachers might know what this is, but we changed that to focus notes. And focus notes is where students will take notes on any subject. You could pick that subject. Let's say, for example, science. They come up with an essential question. They actually write the body, and the body consists of just taking notes on the subject. And throughout this, they're going through and they're underlining questions, and they're asking questions about the reading material that they're looking at. And then the final part of that is coming up with a summary. And the summary is you take the essential question, the body, and you bring that all together in the form of something that the kids can understand. So that's something that they do. And again, we went from Cornell notes to focus notes this last year. Another really core concept is tutorials. Now, if you've never heard of that topic, it is something that, and I can tell you this, my AVID kids hate doing it. But the whole idea is that students are teaching other students to learn. And so there's an essential question. Again, there's a critical question that they'll come up with. And every Tuesday, I have students rushing in trying to fill out their tutorials. They should have them done on Monday or Wednesday, but that never seems to happen. And so it's really frustrating because the kids have to come prepared. So it is a stage where the kids have to teach each other. Now, they don't give each other the answers, and that's something that they're taught, but they are consistently asking questions to help the student get through the lesson. So that's the second core of AVID. The third one is binders, and Abbott requires their students to carry binders of all the subjects that they have. They're also required to keep their notes in that binder, to have a pouch, and to make sure the information is tagged and organized. So for example, if I ask a student, hey, give me your homework for math on Tuesday, they're able to produce that right then and there. And so that's how organized we asked them to be in this regard. And so one of the things that when I was going through and I was researching this topic, because when I came on board with teaching last year, and they gave me my Avid, but they never gave me any training. So this last summer, that was my first introduction to actually getting training in Avid. So I went through a whole full year without having any training. And let me tell you, it was horrible. The kids knew more than me, and they knew that. They understood the concepts more than me, and I didn't even know anything about tutorials. And so one of the students finally came to me and said, Mr. Cates, you do realize that we have to do tutorials. And I said, I don't know what tutorials are. And so the kids began the process of teaching me what tutorials were and why it was important to their core in regards to the Abbott course. So one of the things I do want to talk about, and this is something that I'm seeing more and more with Abbott, and again, I talk about it being a college prep class. I follow my students. So my students last year were 10th grade. They are juniors this year, and then next year they'll graduate. And some of the things that we try to really instill in my students is, again, readiness for college. Matter of fact, on Wednesday, we are going to do a field trip to UMKC, and we're going to talk with their admission department. We're going to talk with former students who are at UMKC, and we're going to look at some of the different departments so the students can get become fully engaged and immersed in this experience. And so that is something that we really try to look at Avid. The numbers are a little bit down. I think it's 78% of students that utilize Avid are, this is from the actual website, the numbers from the website, about 78% of the students actually go on to a four-year college. Now, that other amount is some students choose to go to a two-year college. Some of the students choose to go into the military. So these are all good things the students do, just not just getting them ready for college, but also getting them ready for life. So I'm going to, where am I at? I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Kristen because I think I've reached my time limit.
Okay, that's okay. You did a great job. I hope I have as much information as you do. Doing it on the SIOP model, and I believe it's pronounced SIOP, and I'm a little I'm wrong, but it stands for Sheltered and Structured Instruction Observation Protocol. Kind of a big thing. It came about, it was developed as a wide research group to address the needs of more diverse students from the second language. And it has components here. The components are lesson preparation, building background, comprehensive input, strategies, interaction, practice application, and then lesson delivery, review, and assessment. Our school doesn't really have any students in the junior high and high school that need that support. However, we have our curriculum has skills that our students need to develop, and we not only assess our students on the content, but the cognitive skills and history. We do and so a lot of skills that we work on are argumentative, content. They read through it. They create their own argument of how they feel about the content, like their opinion on a situation in history. They also oftentimes have to provide evidence to support that argument and then explain how that evidence works. So some other less are like counterclaims and organization, identifying connections. For instance, my history class are working on like identifying patterns between like Athens and Sparta, and like the government passed. And so our students have to develop these cognitive skills. That's our goal, is to help them improve as they and these are cognitive skills themselves that will help them throughout life with whatever they decide to do. Let's see here. And so when I watched that video, teacher, that about a week ago, I've kind of struggled with like finding a way to help my students who struggle so much. And so when I watched that video, I saw like a light bulb kind of clicked on. Maybe I do like not teach the skills and the concepts, but like create 2 objectives for the lesson of working on the skill and content. And so I was really inspired by that, and I'm like, this is for Thanksgiving break, so I haven't really been able to practice that, but I think that this plan can really help our way of teaching here. And so that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I guess I'll put time over to Becky.
Okay, so I'm too going to talk about PSS and also PBIS because I rely heavily on these 2 models for my school. And they kind of go hand in hand. As you're saying, but it can also be for behavioral strategy. So with our kids, it's more of having a for their students. I have a school that we are higher need than other schools, so it should split between about a 70, 15, 5%, something like that. So 70 your biggest to tier 1, tier 2 a little bit that smaller percent, but your tier 3 smallest percent. We break that down. We have much higher. So we are a different triangle. We're not perfect. But that is where my classroom lessons, my main guide that everybody, my tier 2 is more brief group because I have at least lost a parent within the last years, and have behavioral issues that come from that. And then my tier 3 is my top percent, ones that I am pulling out of closet. I hate the one that just really struggle in being in the classroom and behaving well. So you tying that with PBIS. It is a 3-year system too, and if you guys, they talk about in the green zone. There's the I do. But this is different. So when I look at its space note, I look by color, by their need. So the tier 1, that is where I do the all student wide. Maybe when I think of, we do school wide programs, like we do the bucket fillers, stuff like that. That's something that everybody aims for with behavior, with how they interact, stuff like that. For my 2, my students I look at that are at high risk. Been in trauma situations, they've lost family members, they're not in a home that's stable, in poverty, something like that. So that's where they're at that at risk, having a little bit of behavior issues, but not that full level. And then I have my tier 3, that's where we're doing intense individual support. So where I'm working much harder with them. And what I'll say is, that's something that in around the 1980s, and universities start picking up. Hey, we really need to work on this, especially with. And if you guys got to watch the video, it was so cool to see. I get this reaction too when I have kids come. They're like, "Hey, I'm in the green zone. Like I'm feeling, good." And I'm like, "Okay, so we know where we're at." Now, I think it was Michael said earlier, we were talking about how older kids respond to the same to that. Yeah. But the kiddos, they work really well with this. I've definitely seen where it helps me know what I need to be doing to help them best, where my best used, and where that individual care is needed, and it helps build those. So I'll pass it on to her.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the individualized program of study. And before this whole module, I didn't really know that the state of Kansas actually requires. Let's see. I found this information on the Kansas Parent Information Resource Center. It says that the state of Kansas Board of Education expects all school districts to implement individualized plans of study for all students beginning in middle school. I guess when I was in middle school, I probably did something that was like this and I didn't even know it. So as a teacher, I kind of get to see the other side of it, and it's pretty nice. But it helps the students kind of define goals and kind of set a track to go after high school, which I think is good. I think my high school now more than ever incorporates things like this with the kids. I think at a reality U. Basically, it was like a simulation, and had to buy a car, and they had to buy a house, and they had to pay for like childcare. It sort of told them like, hey, if I get this job, I'll be okay, but if I don't go, try to better myself. And I think some of the students that I'm not going to go to college. Individualized plans of study or programs of study also help students like explore themselves more and explore their ideas as well as their strengths and challenges that they have at school. And then something I do as a Spanish teacher, because I don't want them to leave the class because their plan of study is like Spanish. I would give them ideas of how Spanish can help make them more marketable in their career field, or how Spanish can help them broaden their like cultural competency. They'll be able to handle different situations better talk, communication skills, and that too. So I just like a learning journey, and I always for Spanish and then also for other classes. I just get into their plan of study a little bit with them so that they can have an idea. And why not? So yeah, that's what I have about individualized programs of study. Michael, I was going to ask you a question about the binders, though. Do you think that helps it, or do you think it's like a extra thing you have to do? For example, I had one teacher that had an organized binder, like we got a grade on it. I was fine because I'm an organized kid. Like classmates failed that grade because they didn't have the right paper in the right place. They had the paper. I don't know how strict yours goes, but what do you think? Does it work?
Yeah, and I think so. So and that gives me the opportunity to emphasize that the students they start Avid in middle school. And so it is something that follows them, and I don't think I emphasized that earlier. Some of the kids have been around and been doing this for 5-6 years, so they understand what good looks like. And so me coming in new, not fully understanding what good is that first year, I was very lenient about a lot of things. And so they'd be like, Mr. Case, I don't even have a binder. I just have my stuff. I'd be like, oh, okay. This year, I'm like, no, we have plenty of blinders. You need to go get a binder. You need to make sure your stuff is correct. And if you don't have a pouch, we can go get you a pouch. Because I think, and this is something that I learned the last part of the year when we visited some of the Avid students who had moved on to college, and they were really emphasizing the importance of being organized to the students. And they were like, hey, listen, guys, we know that you don't like to do the tutorials and the binders are a pain and you got to carry them everywhere. But if you do these things, you're going to be far ahead of your college classmates because they've never been able to do these things while they're in high school. So it's going to be hard for them. And so I would say this year I've been really a stickler about it and saying, hey, you need to make sure you have everything. And we have a checklist that we go through. Okay. And sometimes I let the students actually go through and trade up their binders. One of the things that we do have, and this is in short supply this year, is that we actually hire college tutors. and they'll come in, and we'd like for them to be previous Avid graduates, but if they're not, that's fine, as long as they understand the concept of Avid. So they'll come back and they'll go through, and the tutors are in charge of tutorials as well as actually checking the binders. And then I would just kind of do a cursory check just to make sure everything is in place, and I'll talk to the tutor about it. So, but to answer your question, I've become a big stickler about it because I understand the importance of it,
Yeah.
you know, being in college. Yeah.
Sure, I think it is important and to train them to get some sort of organizational system that works for them. Otherwise, they'll be a total mess, like you said, when they get out on their own. I guess my initial reaction was like, what? Because some of the kids really struggled in that one class where I had the like binder checks and stuff. But it was only just one class. You know, the other classes were their own organizational system. So since it's kind of across the school, then I can see where it works out really well. That makes sense.
Tyler, I have a question for you, and I hope I'm wording this right. I apologize if I don't. So at my school, classes where students who are typically Spanish speakers,
Yeah.
they work directly with one of the teachers who goes through their whole curriculum with them, and it seems almost like they're siloed off.
Yeah.
A little bit, and there's not a lot of connection with the other core classes and the other core teachers and the other teachers. Can you talk a little bit about how you actually, or how do you actually keep making sure that these students who might not necessarily have language barriers, but they're still part of the school, and making sure that they have that school experiences across the board? How do you do that?
Well, since my school is tiny, we're a small school, those kids just get assimilated right into classroom culture. I have a couple periods where I'm like a tutor, and I'll tutor them in both languages if I need to. But honestly, sometimes it relies on to help them out. That's how our kids at my school stay in the system. They work with a tutor at the end of the day, and she just all classes. And honestly, you know, I don't know what the ideal situation is there because I've only ever experienced the way my school handles that. You know, I mean, we have quite a few kids, but there's not like a ton to have a separate area for them. But I could see where the concern would be that they're just getting that kind of interaction with themselves and then their own tutor or teacher. That would be difficult. I guess an ideal scenario would be where they sit in an English classroom and they try to practice their English as much as they can and they get to hear it. Because honestly, to learn a language, that repetition is one of the most important things. So, and then where they would have the opportunity to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the conclusion, I think. And I'm kind of stepped into some ESL, but I haven't done it. ESL is a lot like how to do English teaching to them or anything. So unfortunately, I don't have a perfect answer for that.
Well, that was fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else would go ahead?
I was going to say on that,
Go ahead.
we have a bunch of kids that come, either they move in or they only, I had a kindergartner this year who only speaks Spanish. And it was a very scary first day for her because she just had no idea what was going on. But we're lucky at school that we have parents that also speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So they are tough. They definitely, since our kids are young, they definitely still make them learn. They don't just hand them everything. They know how it goes. They really, as you were saying, they can explain them. So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I mean, I studied in Spain, and my immersion there was none of the professors spoke, but if you had a problem, you kind of had to figure it out. Of course, I'm an older, like, college age student, so I can figure it out. I'm a child, but it was like, it's a different story. But it is hard, and the best, I think that's really one of the best ways to learn a language is I can do it. And that's unfortunate sometimes, but really
Kristen, you were going to say?
Oh, like I said, I don't have really a lot of students like with ESL needs in school, but I was going to say I like the Avid program. Like it really pushes students. I think it it sounds like it would be good for students also who are like advanced, that like often get ahead of other students. You know, I like the idea of team building and like tutorials. I think is great, because I always am thinking of different ways of helping like our advanced students. Like sometimes I'm kind of at a loss, and so I think some of those ideas you shared with Avid like kind of got me thinking on things I could help them with too.
Yeah, and one of the things I do feel like with Avid, a few years ago, there was this big, and this is, we had a new superintendent come in. There was a lot of talk about Avid going away in Topeka, and there was less emphasis put on it for a number of years. Last year being one of those years, I felt like, and I think the school board came down and said, hey, we need to make sure that we're putting our thrust behind it because it is a successful program. So I really feel like it has to start from the top all the way down, and the administrators have, and the counselors, they have to really embrace it. Because if you're not getting support from any of those groups, it can be a hard go. That is why I think, and I'll just be honest, some of the numbers are down in regards to Avid around our school district, because I think there's been less emphasis put on it. So.
It's that needing that support.
So I think we can go ahead and wrap up, and I don't want to speak for anyone, but I do feel like all these different ideas are just like a toolbox. Some might not work. I know this Abbott might not be for every, and this, just being honest, might not be for every student. But I think if you have a toolbox and you can actually select something that's going to be useful to you, maybe it's not useful to you in the next several years, and you let it go and you pick up something else. And so it's just different strategies. And I think as teachers, we've got to be very mindful about strategies, and being willing to change up strategies is going to be useful for us.
Right. So.
All right. Anybody else want to add on to that? Or did I say it really well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I want to thank everybody for meeting tonight, and you guys have a great night.